And if they're licking at the water, folks, you got an issue. If they're licking at that water, not good. So moving the rams, smaller animals are much easier to handle. So if you've got young kids and you're just starting out, you want to get into ruminants and you got a small acreage, sheep. Sheep are a lot more suited than cattle for small acreages. Because if you've got, let's just say you got 5 acres. How many cows can you run on 5 acres? Well, it depends. In Missouri, you could run maybe 1 cow-calf pair, but you could run 10 to 12 sheep on that same 5 acres and do pretty well. So you can run more of them. They're a whole lot more friendly for young people. They're not going to hurt you. You can pick them up. You can't pick up a 400-pound calf, but you can pick up a 40, 60-pound lamb. They require less forage during droughts. So when we get into droughts in Missouri, the sheep always just shine. They're such a low-maintenance animal. And goats would be in that category. The problem with goats is they're just, when they get short on forage, and if you're not moving them correctly, they will look for another place to eat. And usually it's on your neighbors. And the old adage, good fences make good neighbors. Well, we had good fences, and they still went visiting. And I didn't have good neighbors. All of a sudden, I wasn't a good neighbor. I had neighbors that were mad at me. So I missed the goats, but that's the reason we got rid of them. I just couldn't keep them home. They were characters, a little bit like the pigs. They got a ghost just got a different personality. You may want to, lighten up on your cow numbers when you get into droughts. Sheep and goats and chickens are much easier to manage through droughts than cattle. Chickens, you're bringing in feed, and same way with the pigs. So even if there's nothing growing, you can still keep that going, but you do have to buy the feed. I think this is the biggest mistake people make right there. When they get in a drought, they hunker down and they don't manage their pastures. Oh, it'll rain next week. I'm not selling anything, because if I do, I'm not going to get anything for it. The next week gets there, you haven't had a rain. Yeah, it'll rain next week. No, you got to manage for what you know. You know how much feed you have in front of you. You know how many animals you got. You know the grass isn't regrowing behind you. You've been measuring it. You better sell off some animals. And that first cut needs to be 20%. You need to sell off 20% of your animals. When the grass is not growing back, go back in 30 days and look where you were at. And if that grass hasn't grown back any, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Because you're going to be back around there, let's say in another 30, 40 days, and it still hasn't regrown. Oh, man. Now you're looking at a golf course. And the worst thing about droughts is when you overgraze during a drought, it takes a full year to get back to normal sometimes, maybe longer. Depends how much you chewed it off. In Albuquerque, I was out there, and those guys out there, when they get in, they're always in a drought, but there's parts around New Mexico there, they only get to graze that farm once every 3 years. Now, that's a rest period. Once every 3 years. It takes that long to grow something. And if they come back sooner than that, that's overgrazing. They'll have a desert. So when we're talking about that, if you're going to set up a grazing operation and you haven't planted roots anywhere, go someplace where it rains. Don't go to Colorado or Utah or New Mexico or Arizona. There's no rain out there. How are you going to grow grass if you don't get rain? You got to irrigate? You can't irrigate and make money. And Ian goes as far as saying if you build an operation around irrigation, in other words, your whole livelihood is built on irrigating. Sooner or later, the townspeople are going to come and say, you can't do that anymore. That's our water. You can't be using drinking water to grow cattle feed. You can't do it. So be careful. Where do you set up at? Go someplace that it rains. So that was the worst drought in Missouri history. That was 2012. Folks, this was about, it was after Jan and I came back from New Zealand. So that would have been about July, middle of July, end of July. I mean, this is when people were selling cattle in Missouri. But I already sold off around 25% in June. The last of June, I knew we were in a drought. Terrible, terrible droughty conditions. And so we sold all, we kept the best animals, and we just glided right through that drought. Hurricane Isaac came in that fall, came up through Louisiana, and gave us 9 inches of rain in 9 days. 9 inches. And because we hadn't overgrazed our farm, we grew a ton of grass. But the neighbors, it all ran off. It all ran off in the creek. They didn't have anything to hold the rain. Okay, so try and keep the rain on your land. The only way you can do that is you got to have it covered with carbon. You got to have it covered with carbon. Something organic. There's what bare ground will do to you. So that was on the same day, right across the fence. This is my neighbor's continuous grazer. He uses the Columbus method. You know, he turns his cattle out in the spring and he discovers them in the fall. And so there's just nothing there. And I put that thermometer, it's 105 degrees. And over here in our grass, on the soil, I just set it down on the soil. I didn't stick it down in the soil. I set it on top of the ground. It's 90. That's right across the fence. He's 15 degrees hotter than my side of the fence. All I did differently is I've got carbon. I've got a nice litter bank. Folks, this is what a litter bank looks like right there. You like to see that. You like to have that dead material laying on top of your soil. It's like a big mulch. So when it does get a deluge of rain like we got yesterday, Jan said it rained so hard, it didn't go very long. She said, but we got a half an inch in like 8 minutes. I mean, it just pounded them. And I said, did you get any runoff? She goes, no, none. There was no water moving off that land. It just grabbed it. So if it grabs it and holds it in place, you're going to grow grass. If it runs off to the creek, you didn't grow nothing. You might as well not even got the half inch. So try and keep every drop of rain on your farm. Don't give it to your neighbor. Absolutely don't do that.
I'm Joel Salatin, editor of Stockman Grass Farmer. Thank you for watching this Stockman Grass Farmer video, where grass farming is celebrated for its possibilities and opportunities. You'll find more at the links here to find additional material in our library. You can see a lot of different videos and enjoy learning more about grass farming. We look forward to visiting with you more and more here as you make Stockman Grass Farmer part of your video portfolio.